Yeah, so I first encountered Together when I was due to appear in Highbury Magistrate Court in April 2021. And basically, I'd been in a meeting with my solicitor, Mr. Colburn, where the consensus was basically I had to expect further prison time due to the charges of ABH on a police officer and an assault on a shop worker. But what happened is it had escalated, as is nearly always the case when I'm brought into custody under the influence of alcohol and having a mental health, breakdown. And I ended up with another multiple assault charges on officers, um, like as well as that. So when I found myself in Highbury Corner Court, I was feeling like really distraught. I felt like everything had just gone wrong again for me. Um, and basically it sort of starts sort of like I started off basically back in January when I was released from HMP Bedford. I was released late in the day, and I was released with no medication. I was supposed to be on like a medication for my ADHD and stuff. And basically, where I was released with no meds, um, there's like a waiting time, of having to re-refer yourself to the mental health services in the community, and then you have to wait for that, and then I have to go through like jump through hoops into to like. So after two lockdowns, like lots of aggro and an awful lot of, and not an awful lot of help, in January I was released from HMP Bedford like without my medication. Um, I was given a flat by probation for them to take it straight off me due to lack of funding. Um, and then I found myself having to move to London to try and get some sort of help, like because I was in the community without any links to mental health, and without any support from any official places, um, and very little support from the ones that I did have contact with. So I moved to London in January. I'd done a referral through the doctors to the community mental health in Camden, and things were going relatively smoothly for me for the first time in ages. And what happened is in the space between sort of January till let's say April, when I was offered my first mental health appointment in the community, I was unfortunately taken like mentally ill, and I had a bit of a mental health breakdown and a lapse in my abstinence from alcohol, and I ended up getting arrested in the community in Camden Town. And basically, a long story short, I ended up with a lot of assault charges on police officers, on the shopkeeper, and I ended up back in court in Highbury Corner Court in London. And I just thought that I was going to go back to prison, basically. And it just felt like I can't describe how low I felt at that time, at that point in time where I'd let down my family yet again. I'd let myself down yet again. And it's like a broken record sort of thing, and a revolving door thing really does sort of scream out to me as being the perfect metaphor for that. So what I was going to say is that, you know, my previous experience of mental distress is quite a lot, yeah. But in that instance, it was great, yeah, and I didn't feel good at all. And I've had a long history of mental health, and it's been a rocky road. From a young age, I've suffered with various different sort of mental health ailments, and I find it quite difficult to sort of describe how hard it was to access the right kind of support from a young age, and also the relevance of me being, not being able to find the right support from a young age. And what's happened is that I've just got worse over the years, and prison just made me more violent and more aggressive, and I started taking it out on myself in there. So by the time I ended up in Highbury Corner Court, I was in a right sorry state, and I didn't really know where else to turn. But I managed to get my solicitors from my area, which is Hertfordshire, to come up and see me in London, just to see a familiar face. And I remember having the conversation like it was yesterday, yeah. And basically, the conversation just sort of the basic consensus for the conversation with my solicitor, Mr. Colburn, was that I had to expect further prison time due to the charges of ABH on a police officer. I'd just been got out of prison from ABH on a prison officer, so it's all very much the same. So, I was in Highbury Corner Court. That's when I met Honor, who works for Together UK, and she's a volunteer. And basically at the time I didn't know this. I'd just been told like, oh yeah, they're from mental health. Do you want to see them? And normally I'd be like, no, I'm all right. I don't, I wouldn't reach out. But these times I was so desperate for any sort of assistance in the particular thing that I found myself in, like in the hole I found myself in. I needed whatever help I could get. So I spoke to this lady, and I remember her saying I like to write reports, and I told her everything about my life, and she wrote a report and then stood up for me in court, and that was the first help I got from Together for Mental Health UK, and they referred me to their charity, and I didn't know anything about it. And I was out on bail now, and I managed to speak to this man called Paul, and that's how I met Together UK.